I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Kate Thomas,
Here.
Gabe Doney,
Here.
Jim Hansen,
Present.
Amy Plisky,
Here.
Clay Colomb,
Here.
Deb Baker.
Here. Thank you. And we have a Pastor Scott Craig tonight for the invocation. If you'll step up, thank you.
Christmas season, and that it is truly the time when we celebrate when you came to earth in the person of Jesus to show us who you really are and what you think of us and how much you love us, and that you would be born to eventually die for us, to wipe away all the bad in our lives. And we thank you for the promise of life forever with you. And until then, we thank you for the work that we have to do here to serve one another and to serve the kids and the parents, the families, through this incredible opportunity of the American dream and the American design of having local control and people like this, my brothers and sisters who serve in this community on this board. Bless them tonight. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Amen.
Please join me in allegiance.
Conference will automatically end in 30 seconds.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to under God, with liberty and justice. All right, on to 4, approval of the agenda. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Jim and Deb.
Conference ending. Goodbye.
Jim and Deb. Thank you. All right, all those in favor of the approval of the agenda, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, I believe this is where we get the oath of office for our new member. Coy, would you take over? We'll take a few minutes so that he can get his stuff up here and take his seat. Okay, we are at persons wishing to address the board. We have 8, and at 5 minutes each, that gets us at 40 minutes. So I would ask that somebody motion to do 4 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have Gabe and Jim. All those in favor of putting it down to 4 minutes, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, first speaker is Florence Thompson.
Are we working? Yes, we are. Yes, my name is Florence Thompson. I'm president of South Dakota Parents Involved in Education, and I'm also a retired school psychologist with over 40 years' experience in the schools as a psychologist. I'd like to speak about a number of things. First of all, I'd just like to welcome Bishop Carr to the board. Very welcome. I'm concerned about one of the items, something about leapfrogging. I think this looks to me like protection for administrators' salaries. I see that it covers everyone, but I think the administrators don't need special protection for their salaries. Their salaries are very high. Their administrators' salaries are at the 26th percentile or something nationwide, so for South Dakota. We have a declining enrollment here, and that's going to be covered in the assistant superintendent's report. I'm sure it will be glossed over, but the declining enrollment affects our state per pupil reimbursement. So we're getting less reimbursement because we have kids that left during the COVID and they did not come back, quite a few of them. I also was a little concerned about the last meeting. I felt like I had whiplash. First, we had what I would call Christmas bonuses, where everybody got a feel-good bonus, including, I guess, the administration, which I don't think they need. And then after that was passed, then at the end of the meeting, we had this surprise under other, which was, oh, by the way, the Canyon Lake boiler's in dangerous condition, and we may have to close the school. Now, this is a long-term problem. That boiler didn't go bad overnight. So I'm wondering why it was chosen to come up at this particular meeting and to follow all the bonuses. Actually, it looks like they'd about cancel each other out. So I know you can't take money from one fund and put it into another, but our capital outlay fund is very depleted, and the district is badly in debt. It looks to me like this was a manipulation to justify another bond issue. And I think we've been treated to a lot of that kind of what I would call manipulation. The public is getting tired of the games that are being played to manipulate the raising of our property taxes. Also, I was disappointed that we are not strongly defending children against the dangerous so-called vaccines. That seems to have been dropped from the agenda. We should prevent the schools from being used to facilitate this vaccine, so-called, which is killing and crippling children, and for no good justification. It does not protect the public to vaccinate kids. It does not protect teachers or families. And children are not in danger from COVID. In fact, the children are assets. They have strong immune systems, and they boost the herd immunity. And so they are getting those viruses, they're adapting to them, and the viruses are being weakened over time by the herd immunity. And also, there's estimates now that probably 80% of the population is already immune to COVID. So children, there's no justification for vaccinating children. And we've had kids with heart attacks.
That's time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Jan Mangelson.
Thank you, Board. This message is very short.
I want to thank you for the upcoming staff bonuses. I feel that they are most deserving of this bonus. In addition, there are many statements made in this public forum. I think these statements should have references so we can read the original article about a particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Scott Mcginley.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me have an opportunity to speak a little bit. And my primary deal is maybe to make a statement and then some congratulations. You know, our country's kind of on a path of destruction. And, you know, changing presidents doesn't really change the country. Changing people, though, changes the country. And you change the people from the bottom up, not the top down. And that seems to be working well. I thank you guys, every one of you people, for taking the courage and the dedication to change the policies and make them go the right direction to preserve our freedoms. And so please keep up the good work. You know, we enjoy religious freedoms because of our Declaration of Independence, our Bill of Rights, and the United States Constitution. All three come directly from the Holy Bible. The country is established on the Word of God. And that's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then, of course, Jesus Christ himself. So, that statement being made, we want to congratulate all of you on the adoption of Bishop Troy Carr to the Rapid City School Board. And go on record supporting your principles for the teachers and the students and the people of Rapid City. That's an amazing progress that we have here. His wife, Tawana, is a wonderful lady. You will enjoy her immensely. I might just quickly say that one day I met one of her friends on the car lot where I sell cars, and I said, Tawana, yeah, she's a wonderful lady. You know, she walks on water. Her friend says, well, not quite. She's up to her knees, but she won't sink. And she's that kind of strength in that woman. So that is my point behind that, is this is a wonderful family to have here. And so I'm going to leave with, you know, there's several things I'd like to do, but just a prayer. And I think today, if the Lord was here, if Moses was here, the Lord would say to Moses, tell the school board and the administration, this is how you are to bless the people and the students and the teachers and the parents in Rapid City. Say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. So the school board will put my name on the Rapid City people, and I'll bless them. So God bless, happy trails. Thanks for letting me speak a little bit.
Thank you. Next speaker, Kara Flynn.
Thank you, President Thomas, Dr. Simon, and board, and welcome to Bishop Carr to the board. I'm actually here to speak about the boiler issue at Canyon Lake, and I just have to say, as a little bit of background, I was the tri-chair for volunteer organization and coordination for the bond campaign, and also was in charge of all the signage, and I know that this was one of the things that we were worried about and that we predicted would happen, is that the boiler could go out at Canyon Lake, or that we could have a major issue at Robbinsdale or at Wilson, and we were concerned about the air quality and south, so, and other issues. And I was a little concerned, my heart sank. And then I was also concerned that there was a comment made that there's not a lot of community support for a bond. And I'd just like to talk a little bit about that. There's actually immense community support for a bond. We need a super majority to pass the bond of 60%. But let's just go back to the bond figures. We had 56.29% people of the people that voted in favor of the bond, and 43.71% voted against it. So that's about a difference of about 2,000 votes. We do have great community support. We have great medical community support for a bond issue. And there's actually a lot of people in this room who said they were against it, but if we would make it smaller, and that they would be for it. And I really think that we need to bring the bond back. Maybe we need to do the 3 elementary schools next. Thank God we got the ESSER funds to pay for South Middle School so that we don't have to take that out and we can have a smaller bond to pass. But I think it's time for this community to come together. People that were in favor of the bond and people that didn't vote for the bond because they thought it was so large, to create a bond that will pass so that we can lead our kids into the future with enough space, with educationally appropriate spaces, and with safety. And so that we don't have to take these kids out midstream of an already difficult school year and move them around because we have what really is a foreseen circumstance. We know these buildings are in bad condition. I would encourage everyone to go to those schools if they have not seen them. And the second thing I'd actually like to talk about is I'm really happy to see the MOU between RCAS and RCEA dealing with the temporary placement grid and the leapfrogging issue. I'm happy that you're taking this first step in dealing with the leapfrogging issue. It sounds like we're going to maybe get some more funding from the state, and hopefully at that point we can adjust those teachers that are making less, and we can have fairness for all, because this really is affecting retention in the school district, and I really am happy to see that. I voted for the temporary placement grid when it came up before, and I encourage all of you to take the first step in dealing with leapfrogging and retaining good teachers and telling everyone that your in-school service matters just as much as the years that you spent someplace else, so that they are paid fairly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Michael Birkland.
Hello, I'm Michael Birkland. I taught at Central High School for the last 6 years and have since resigned. But I'm here also to talk about teacher salaries mostly. But first I wanted to welcome Bishop Carr as well. I saw in the paper that you said that you were intending to go to the schools and listen to those in the schools, and I very much appreciate that. And I hope that the board as a whole will also continue to do so or start doing so. So I also mostly wanted to talk about the leapfrogging MOU. I am also very grateful that you're looking for a solution. I was leapfrogged. That was part of why I resigned. But as I stated to last year's leadership and board and teachers association, I hope this is only part of a solution. Because it kind of sends the message that there will be no upward mobility if this is the only thing that's done. And it's particularly frustrating for those in my position who have been hired in the last 7 or 8 years, who came into our district expecting 50,000 and flatlined at 42, and now have been told, in a way, that that's the way it is. So I understand there's a budget issue, and that's why this has come up. So I do support this as a first step. I also, regarding the budget issue and regarding the boiler, et cetera, as Mrs. Flynn just mentioned, the majority of our community does want a bond. The small special interest groups here do not represent our community as a whole. We took a vote, we took a tally, it was over half. Sure, we need a supermajority, South Dakota state law, I understand that, but the majority do want a bond. So, once again, just to kind of sum it all up, I am grateful that salaries are being addressed, but hopefully this is only part of a bigger necessary solution to get our staff the wages they deserve and we're expecting. Otherwise, I do feel that we will have a mass exodus of teachers at the end of the year. If we tell them that you're stuck at 42,000, that's not competitive. The school district is just like any other business, essentially. If you want the best, you have to provide competitive salaries, competitive working conditions, and great places for them to work. So I hope that we take this first step tonight, and I hope that in the future there is another, I don't know the word I'm looking for, memorandum or whatever, to fix the salaries in general and make them competitive. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, Dr. Eldon Rice.
Good evening, Board. The title, my topic was Endemic Misandry, which is a fancy word for saying our culture's prejudice against men. You know, Federal Bureau of Prisons says that 93% of the people incarcerated are men in the United States and only 7% are women. Men are murdered at 4 or 5 times the rate that women are. They're alcoholics about twice as often. There's many other concerning statistics. I don't even know what the number is, how many men are killed in the war versus women. I'm not here to talk about all that, but I am here to talk about why young men in this district aren't getting the awards and aren't performing academically as well as the young girls are. And it's not, I'm here talking to you, but when my daughter graduated, I mentioned this to you before, so some of this is a rehash, but as you watch them getting awards, which leads to college and jobs and all these things that predict their future success, they're not performing as well. Why is that? And why, I talked to several administrators and said, why is this? And they were very defensive. Why are you looking at this? Why are you asking me this? I said, why aren't you asking this? And they said, we're not treating them any different. I said, well, then do you think they're just dumber than the women are, or the girls, or what's the problem? So I want the number. I wanted the number. I asked the number. Well, I don't know what it is. Well, we can see. I don't go all the graduations. We can see it's 2 or 3 to 1 that girls are getting. And my daughter's wanted to get an award for academic performance before she went to college. So we can all see it. So it's not hidden. Why aren't we addressing this? This is directly under the purview of the school board. Why aren't the young men performing as well? If you look at the college numbers, they're way up. Now that may be because they want to attend more. I don't know what the reason is, but it's a fact. A couple other things I've talked to you before. If I bring you a tape of a teacher dropping the F-bomb in class, it's legal to tape, what are you going to do? I don't want you scurrying off the executive session and coming back and say, well, we handled it, we can't tell you. Which, trust me, I've had this happen. I had 8 kids in 4 different states. Happens all over the country. We are concerned that you're on the side of the teachers. Our kids can be punished. It's clear in the student handbook what the punishment is. What is the punishment for the teachers? Okay? So the third thing I'm going to address is this idea that you're punishing and twisting the arms of kids for not performing, for instance, signing the handbook. There's an ethical issue with teachers using their authority, for instance, to punish kids who didn't bring back the signed handbook. And they're punishing them by lowering their grades. That is completely unethical. My daughter got called to this office multiple times, turn in your handbook, turn in your handbook. I finally had to call down and says, stop calling into the office. I'm not signing the handbook. If you have a problem with that, I'll see you in court. You are bullying these kids, and the teachers don't get that it's bullying. It wasn't appropriate for you to demand the signature anyway. It's not legal, and I knew this. I didn't sign in any states I was ever in. I didn't agree with having to sign the handbook. I didn't agree with what was in the handbook. So how are we going to, you guys need an in-service about where the teachers' authority stops and ends. They need to understand that they're not allowed to do these kinds of things. You can't, my sister works in the school. She says, oh, I hear the F word every second of every day as I go down the hallway. I said, then take the rule out. If you're not going to, don't kid yourself. Say, you can say whatever you want then. If you're not going to enforce it, don't pretend like it's a rule that you're going to enforce. Just stop it. But let's decide, let's treat everybody equal. Is that not fair? If we bring you a tape of the teacher using inappropriate language, what are you going to do? Thank you.
Thank you. Tanchi Weaver.
I'm using the short microphone. Well, good evening, and I'm going to just make some general comments. First of all, I want to point out that today is the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. There are a lot of people, and some of you on the board have served our country. I'm hoping and praying that every one of the students in school knew the importance of this anniversary today. Because if it were not for the sacrifice of those people and that generation, we wouldn't be here today arguing about the things we're arguing about. We have that privilege because they went to war and they sacrificed for all of us. Last night I was here at the City Council and I was addressing something that is going on with the Youth City Council. I'm not against the program, but I do think it needs some watching, because it seems to be serving more of a social justice purpose than actually learning the rudiments of city government and of parliamentary procedure and the purpose of government and the requirements of citizenship. So I would encourage you, because it is partly overseen by the school district, to take some care that the students that participate in Youth City Council are given opportunities not just to, right now they're talking about traveling to a National League of Cities conference, which is a very left-leaning, anti-Second Amendment type of organization. You can look them up online, and if you want information, I'll send it to you. But there are other organizations as well that have a more conservative point of view, that are mentoring organizations for kids, high school age kids, and these are 9th through 12th graders. I think it's wonderful for kids to learn about government. That's what we want them to learn. We want them to learn what self-governance is, why our nation was such a miracle, and why we have gone to war to preserve it. So, so that said, I will just say that there is a lot of information on the website rcasforward.org that was a website that was put together prior to the bond issue. I'm kind of doing a quantum leap here, but prior to the bond, there was a lot of capacity, unused capacity at the elementary level. In the North Rapid schools especially, 514 empty seats in North Rapid, 458 in South Rapid, 123 in West Rapid City, 127 in East Rapid City, and 112 in Southwest. If there is a problem with a school, there's actually capacity to close that school. So we could have that conversation, especially after we get the enrollment report and we discover that last year over 700 students left our district and about 60-odd students came back this year. So I would be welcoming conversation on that topic. And the reason for the 2/3 or the supermajority is because it's the same standard we apply to
That's
our
time,
legislature. Okay, I have one sentence. The same standard applies to our legislature. Anytime there's a taxation issue, it has to be a supermajority. Thank you.
Okay, and last speaker, Forrest Cooper.
Hello, Board. My research into RCS spending indicates there are currently 1,800 employees in the district. Out of these, I estimate there are 135 to 140 administrative personnel, and this number has been growing. The my estimate of their annual salaries and benefits is $12.8 million a year. This is an average of $95,000 per person in the administration. We all know there are several schools that need to be upgraded or replaced. I think RCAS is in a financial emergency, and it needs strong corrective action to get out of it. If administrative salaries were cut 10% over 5 years, we would save more than $6.4 million. This would build a new school plus other upgrades and replacements. Other cuts in administrative expenses should be used for increased teacher pay. Now, is this a drastic action? Well, it is. But if you're in an emergency, you take drastic action to correct the problem. In the May 2020 proposed annual budget report, and I quote, said, "The reserve fund has been stabilized over the past 3 years, primarily due to the use of capital outlay fund flexibility." Oh my goodness, what does that mean? In real speak, this means money is taken from the building improvement fund and eventually can find its way into the general fund. And there it can be used for any spending whim, such as school board consultants, which have no impact on academic achievement in our schools. I estimate, or based on some of the research I've done, that $6 million has been transferred from the capital outlay fund over the past 5 years. This has got to be reversed. We cannot practice our finances like this and survive. I request that the board look into past spending practices and take action to focus more money on improving academic achievement.
Thank you. All right. There is no sharing of success for December. We are on to the student representative reports, and we'll start with Hayden Bentz from Stevens High School.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, my name is Hayden Bentz, and I'm the student representative from Stevens High School. I would like to begin tonight by talking briefly about the students of Stevens High School and their involvement in activities and higher learning. A total of 655 students participated in a South Dakota High School Activities Association sanctioned activity this past fall. That equates to roughly 40% of the student population. However, this figure does not take into account any clubs or activities not sanctioned by the SDHS-AA, meaning many more additional students are active participants in Stevens extracurriculars than aforementioned. Additionally, 246 students are enrolled in one or more AP classes, and a total of 286 dual enrollment credits are being taken by Stevens students. All these figures show a commitment to excellence at Stevens, both in the field of academics and extracurriculars. AP Physics students gave presentations on November 19th, the product of months of hard work and presentation, the product of months of hard work. AP Physics 1 students were tasked with creating a water purification system that could be applied to countries without access to clean water. Not only did the device have to work well by producing 3 liters of water a day, but also cost less than $30 to produce. AP Physics 2 students were tasked with creating a payload that would be sent to space via balloon. Their designs had to collect meaningful data, such as the radiation in the atmosphere and the effects in the upper atmosphere had on gram-negative versus gram-positive bacteria. Both classes accomplished amazing feats, which would not have been possible without our amazing instructor, Dr. Andrew Smith. Following winter break, we will begin constructing the devices, which will be followed by real-world testing. Winter sports are just beginning, with basketball and wrestling taking center stage. Wrestling has a duel against Chamberlain and Thunder Basin on Thursday at 7 o'clock, and basketball has their first games of the season on Friday. The girls and boys will play in Pierre, with the girls traveling and the boys playing at home, with games beginning at 4 o'clock and the night ending with the varsity team playing at 7. All of the teams are very excited to begin their seasons and look forward to the support of the community at their events. Stevens Fine Arts is also very busy. Members of the band, orchestra, and choir have been hard at work preparing for the upcoming Christmas concert, which will take place on December 16th at 7:30 in the Milo Winter Auditorium at Stevens High School. It will be a night filled with wonderful holiday music ranging from White Christmas to the Hallelujah Chorus. Additionally, Stevens band director Mr. George Dragoo recently applied for Stevens to be one of 10 high schools selected to premiere a piece written by acclaimed composer Julie Giroux. Out of a pool of over 1,000 high schools, Stevens was selected to be one of the lucky 10 schools. We are all very excited to be given this great honor and will perform the song at our contest in the spring. Lastly, I would like to give a huge congratulations to the 100 students who were recently inducted into the Dr. Roberta K. Gaines chapter of the National Honor Society at Stevens. The induction ceremony took place last Monday with the families of the inductees, previous NHS members, and school administration being in attendance. All 100 of the inductees demonstrated exemplary scholarship, leadership, character, and service, the 4 pillars of NHS. All of these individuals show just how amazing Stevens is, and I am immensely proud for it to be my school. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And we will have Abby Rutan from Rapid City High School next.
Thank you. Rapid City High School would like to thank the senior leadership team for their support as we transition our administrative team. We are thankful that Mrs. Roberts moved from the vice principal position to the principal position. We are also very excited to welcome our new principal, Dr. Conroy. Rapid High School also extends a public thank you to Mr. Soriano for his dedication and service as he filled in as an interim vice principal during this hiring process. Rapid High is proud to be able to host several elementary school Christmas programs in our historical theater. Welcoming these elementary students and their families into our building during the day makes the holiday season come alive. The Rapid High School Library has produced a series of posters celebrating reading, featuring several staff members. This has been a fun way to grow reading awareness. And last year's SBAC scores for Rapid City High School staff has identified 2 areas of improvement: English language arts narrative writing and math single variable equations. This means that in all classes, students are working on ELA and math goals weekly. Even in art and PE, we are practicing writing and equations. We look forward to seeing and improving on our SBAC scores this year. In closing, I will remind you of our school-wide expectations at Rapid City High School. Be respectful, be present, and be courageous. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate both of those are excellent reports again. I would like the public to know that we do have another student from Rapid City Central High School, Karen Kelly, that has not been able to make it because of how involved she is with her after-school drama. And I'm not sure if she will be joining us after the beginning of the year or... Okay, so hopefully we can get somebody else then from Central, and we'll see that person soon. And on to, there is no conflict of interest that have been turned in, and so we are at approval of the consent agenda. I need a first and a second.
First.
Gabe, second. Did you get that? Okay. Anybody want anything pulled? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, on to approval of supplement consent agenda. Need a first and a second?
So moved.
Jim and Amy. Anybody want any of these pulled? I would ask that somebody pull at least one of the Rapid City leapfrogging, any one of them, just for an explanation.
I would just ask for an explanation and discussion.
All right, so we can discuss it at this point in time. I would have either Kristen or Coy go first, and please explain some of the things that we heard tonight on comments about it. There is quite a misleading or miscommunication as to what leapfrogging is, and that this has been something that we have been trying to work with every group for quite some time. And this is baby steps in trying to get this fixed, and so please explain what that is.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Absolutely. I would ask Kristen Strussell, HR Director, to give a mechanical explanation of what exactly that looks like, and then I'll make some comments on the finance side.
Thanks very much.
So what these memorandums of understanding are is agreements between the major work groups of the Rapid City area schools and the school district via its school board. And how these MOUs came about is through the negotiations process and through listening to the employees of the Rapid City area schools. The way new employees come into the district is they bring in their years of experience, and based on the years of experience that they bring in, which are relevant to the position that they are accepting, they are placed on an incoming wage schedule. And again, that schedule is based on the years of applicable experience that they have to that position, and that's how they're pinpointed. And so as they move into the district, then they are subject to any negotiated increases that may come through bargaining or anything like that. What we've had happen in the last 5 to 6 years are employees will come into the district, let's say 5 years ago, and they will be placed on that wage schedule based on their experience. And let's say someone has 4 years of experience, and I'm just picking numbers out of my head, but 4 years of experience, and let's say they come in with a $45,000 salary. Then the years proceed on, and that same employee moves forward, and let's say 3 years later, someone comes in with the same years of experience as the existing employee, and that they are placed. When they are placed in a wage, their wage, because they are new, they come in above and beyond the salary of the employee who exists within the district, because that placement schedule is larger than the ongoing increases that employees have received when they stay with the district. And while we want to make sure that we are attracting and compensating employees to the district, we also want to make sure that what we are doing is affirming that experience within the district is as valuable as external experience, that the teachers, the classified staff, and all other employees who begin their career with the district and move along are not rewarded less than people who come in from the outside. And so what this is meant to do is a strategy to show our employees that they are not, their experience in staying with the district is not less valuable. And I think it's really important to see how this action came about, because when you realize that we have been negotiating with employees, each work group, and that they have said, we feel that it would be an important step forward to make sure that we are not leapt over by new hires, that's something, when we can work in tandem with our employees and find ways that are responsible fiscally, and this is, to move forward, we want to make sure to do so, because when you have the new employees who are coming in at a greater salary than employees of the same experience, you are spending money in a way that is not strategically wise. And what you should be doing, and what these actions would do, and what's really unique and wonderful about this, is every employee in the district, all 4 groups are moving in unison together. And that's something that we haven't seen before, and it's very important. Taking that money that would be the gap between the new employee and the existing employee, and finding a more strategic and proper way to use those funds that benefits employees in the way that you might intend. And so we have gone through the negotiations process, and we've talked about this with employee groups. All 4 groups, the classified group already approved this through their negotiations process, the summary of which passed in November. And the administrator technician group, the teacher group, and the paraprofessional group also want to move in tandem with that. President Thomas, Board, does that answer the questions that you were hoping to see from me?
That certainly answers that for me, yes. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions, or that the public might have any other questions about it? We could give another explanation at some point in time if there are other questions as well, more detailed, I guess.
Yeah.
But this definitely helps to, for baby steps. It does not fix it overnight, but it is something that each group has always wanted to have, and we have wanted as well as a board to move forward in keeping from somebody who has been loyal to this district from getting less pay than somebody else coming in. So, do you have anything to add?
Just a couple quick comments, President Thomas, and Kristen did a really nice job of breaking that down. I think from a financial standpoint, we understand that this is a really multifaceted issue. It's a layered problem. There's several layers with it. And addressing the leapfrogging is certainly one of those layers. And right now, by not addressing it, we're just compounding our own problem. We're literally making our problem worse on a year-over-year basis. And so as we talked with the groups and several of you board members have been involved in talking with the different negotiating groups, one of the things that we've highlighted is, as we try to address some of these really difficult issues that we have around salary and compensation, this has to be one of the strategies. At some point, this will have to happen in order for the district to really be able to move forward in a fiscally sensible and responsible manner and continue to address the overall issue. So Kristen has done a really nice job of having those conversations. Like she talked about, we have everybody moving in the same direction. I think it's a really positive step, and ultimately is going to really help us in starting to be able to address some of these issues.
All right, thank you very much. So we do have a first and a second for all of the items A through E. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, moving on to the first reading of policies A and B. I need a first and a second.
Second.
Gabe and Jim. Anybody want a discussion on either one of these? To pull one. All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, on to the superintendent reports. Enrollment report by Mark.
There we go, I got it. Sit. Come on. It's right there. Okay.
Real quick, Shane, is there a reason why it's not up here either? Okay. Go ahead.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, esteemed students who serve on the board, welcome, and members of the public. Thank you. My name is Mark Abrilchak. I currently serve as the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services for Rapid City Area Schools. Dr. Simon has assigned me this evening to go over some enrollment data with you concerning our school district. What you are going to see in the presentation, you will see a 10-year trend data that you will be able to go ahead and look at to have comparisons and contrast to the data over a decade. You'll be able to see class sizes in schools. You will also see how enrollment has affected those schools, either in a positive or negative way with enrollment of those students. So with that said, I'll go ahead and get started. A couple of key terms that I want to introduce to everybody, especially members of the public, is the terms unduplicated and state aid. The first term, unduplicated, is our numbers that we, as a school district, go ahead and look at on an annual basis. So for an example, if a student is enrolled in our school district and if they are taking one course in our school district, we will count them in our unduplicated data. If a student is being counted with state aid, the state will not count that student as a whole. They will count that student at a percentage of those courses that those students are taking. So for an example, if students have 4 courses that they're taking with state aid, and if there's 4 courses eligible to take, and they take 3 of them, the state will count that student as a 0.75 for enrollment purposes. Okay, so again, unduplicated is our numbers that we take into account for. State aid is the state numbers that the state takes into account for. The state aid count is due to the state the last Friday of September. Again, what will end up happening with the state, because the fluctuations of enrollment in the school district that do go up and down, we have students that come in, we have students that leave, they will also do random checks of our enrollment to go ahead and base whatever the funding that needs to come to the school district back to the schools. So they are watching at regular points throughout the academic year to go ahead and making sure that the schools are funded correctly. This first slide deals with enrollment, and it's unduplicated versus state aid count. And as you can see, we are currently sitting at 12,711 students with our gray line, which is the state aid. Our unduplicated count, again, with students who are taking courses at our schools, is 12,935 students. And what we've done is we went ahead and we looked back 10 years with this particular data. Some board members who were on the board last year may have remember seeing some of these graphs. You will. What we did is we dumped off year 11 and added a year 1 with our counts. So as you can see, back in 2012, our high in our school district was 13,974 students. And again, we are at a current low of 12,935 students. Our previous low, which happened the year before, was at 13,009 students with our unduplicated count. The 10-year average for our schools in the school district is that we have an average enrollment over that decade of 13,657 students. This is a graph that shows our unduplicated count versus state aid count. This has to do what we call with trend lines. We're always looking at trend lines when we're looking at our data. We use data as information. And as you can see with our trend lines, we're averaging on our unduplicated count a loss of about 103 students a year. And then with our state aid count, that again the state comes in and looks at that last Friday of the month, is we're losing about 118 students per year over a decade. This is our unduplicated enrollment. Again, this is the last Friday in September. This graph shows our highs and our lows with our elementary schools, our high schools, and our middle schools. As you can see, the 10-year average for our elementary enrollment is down 75 students. Our 10-year average for high school enrollment is up 17 students, and our 10-year average for middle school enrollment is down 23 students. This gives you a breakdown of all the classes that are within our school district, and when I'm talking classes, I'm talking grade level classes, so kindergarten through grade 12. We have again, 2019 and 2020 data, and this shows you the amount of increase or decrease across our system. This next slide is our unduplicated enrollment by grade level. Again, this has to do with our 2020-2021 data. And as you can see, there is some increases at our kindergarten level and our first grade level, but then we start seeing decreases as they go through the primary elementary education opportunities and also the back end of their elementary education. We see a minus 63 students there. As we go through the system, 9th grade, we have a plus 200, which is good, and along with our 12th grade students, we had an increase of 40 students. This is a breakdown of the last 5 years of our schools, our elementary schools. And as you can see, it's a roller coaster data. I call it roller coaster data because it goes up and down. And there are positive and negative numbers with enrollment at those particular schools. If you want to go ahead and dig deeper, I thought it was very interesting where Rapid Valley and Valley View were sitting as far as enrollment. When we go ahead and compare those two schools across the other schools, it shows that they have an increase in enrollment compared to those other schools, but they're also showing decreases of students that are attending those schools. Our unduplicated enrollment for secondary, our 5-year trend, as you can see, our middle schools across the board are suffering from declines in enrollment, but our high schools, especially Stevens and Rapid City High School, do show enrollment in the positive range. Our non-public and home schools, and non-public, this is another term for the public to understand. These are our private schools and students who have gone to our private schools. As you can see, the last 5 years, a comparison between our non-public and our home schools. The last 2 years, non-public has really shown just a steady flow with those numbers, but our homeschooling has gone up. Those numbers have increased. This pie chart represents our demography of our school district. Demography is our race and ethnicity of our school district. As you can see, the majority of our students are found to be in the Caucasian area, but our Native American and our races of 2 or more also makes up a significant part of our school district, and we know that with demography of our students. This is our average class size throughout our school district. The average class size across the school district, here are our elementary schools. As you can see, they range from 14, which is our new Lakota language course, or immersion program that we have, all the way up to 27.3 students as an average at Corral Drive. I want to just make mention of a policy of the board too, so that you're aware of board members, and it's in District Code JECC procedure, and it says for students in grades K through 2, the expected range for class sizes is 21 to 25 students. When you go into the older ranges of students, grades 3 through 5, the expectation is that we would have 25 to 30 students per teacher. In our middle schools, we, according to the policies, that we don't exceed 30 students in those classes that are core classes. So your language arts, your math, your science, and your social studies, we need to remain under 30. That's by board policy. So I just wanted to remind you of that policy. So as you can see, we are right where we want to be with class sizes at the elementary level. When we look at our elementary level by grade, kindergarten through 5th grade, you can see those numbers increase. We try to invest our teachers into our system at the lower grade levels so that those kids can have a better teacher-to-student ratio. And as they continue to be successful through the system, we go ahead and we increase those class sizes. Again, the average class size for elementary is 22.4 students. This graphic is a demonstration of our middle school average class size, which is 24. And again, as you can see, other than South Middle School, we're right about where that average is of 24. Again, I believe that there's some room at the middle schools if the policy says that our core classes can have increases in students teacher ratio, that would be an area that we could possibly increase up to 30 students. And then when we look at our high schools, our high school average class size is 21. And there's some room for growth there. In a lot of high schools throughout the United States, you will see class sizes range from 28 to 35. And so there's some room for high schools to increase their class sizes. I went ahead and I put together some attendance information, and we just briefly looked at our attendance for our students whose last names start with A's. And what we did is we went ahead and we ran the last 3 years. So we have 2020, 2021, and 2022. The thing that I'm concerned about as an assistant superintendent is the approximate percentage of absences that we're currently seeing in our schools. If you can see right now, we're about 12% overall absences, where just 2 years ago in 2020, we're at 6%. We need our kids to come to school. We need them to be in school. This is really, really important. When we talk about student achievement, I believe there was some mention here this evening about improving student achievement. This is a big key factor, and we need to have students at schools, at our schools. Now, this is kind of a hypothesis of what we think are the drivers of enrollment. Again, the overall enrollment in Rapid City area schools had an increase of about 0.03% from year 2020 to 2021, and that you could go ahead and say that's basically flatlining. But when we look at other indicators contributing to the enrollment decline, first of all is the demographic shifts from schools crowding in parts of the South-Southwest area that affect schools such as Corral Drive, Meadowbrook, South Middle School, Southwest Middle School, and West Middle School. Enrollment has declined at Horace Mann, Knollwood, and Robbinsdale. So the west side of town, we have good solid numbers. The north side of town, we're struggling. Again, access to affordable housing. This is something that we visited about last year with you, that Rapid City has seen a reduction in available entry-level housing. That available entry-level housing is really at $200,000 and lower in the past 5 years. I wasn't here back in 2019, but there was flood damage here due to a flood in the spring of 2019. Again, some of those homes have not been renovated, and so they are sitting empty. And then also we have our in-state and out-of-state moves, which 300 more students left the district and moved in-state in 2019 than in the previous year. So most of the movement was towards the eastern portion side of our state. So our students are leaving from our western side to our eastern side. And then we had 58 more students leave the school district, and they moved out of the state in 2019 than in the previous years. Our homeschool, private school open enrollments, our homeschool enrollment decreased by 42 students from 21 to 20. From private school, the enrollment increased by 84 students. Open enrollment decreased for students coming to RCAS and increased for students leaving the district. So those students that were approved to come to our school district from another school district, those numbers increased. They increased from 2020 to 79 students to 2021 to 92 students. The students that were open enrolling out of RCAS in 2020 was 216 students. And this year, we had 82 students that left our school district. With that, if you have any questions, I'll be available to try to answer some questions for you.
Do any board members have any questions? Go ahead, Jim.
So my first question is in reference to board policy and the 25 student at Corral Drive. We made the policy. How is the administration dealing with it? Because it's your job to fix it. So where are we at?
With the Corral Drive, with the increase in students?
Over 27, yep.
We have, what we do is, Jim, when we take that hard number of 25, we try to go 2 over. And once we go 2 over, we shut it off. The other thing that we do is we take students that are at Corral Drive and we have to move them to our different schools. For an example, a lot of our students that should be going to Corral Drive are attending Meadowbrook Elementary. And so we do look at several of those different elementary schools for that overflow that is happening with Corral Drive.
Thank you. I have another question.
Go ahead, Jim.
My second question is you were talking about the north side schools being down and with, what is it, 140 some students transferred from the north side out to Canyon Lake. How is that figured into this factor?
Well, the numbers that we take, again, are the students that are currently enrolled in those particular schools. So if we've taken students from the north side to Canyon Lake, they will just always count as Canyon Lake students.
Okay.
Does that make?
If they were brought back, we would.
If they were brought back, that would change those numbers.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Any other questions from other board members? I guess I would just be curious, because of the housing prices in Rapid City, is Meade County, can we find out if Meade County or surrounding districts, Douglas, et cetera, picked up some of those students because of the housing prices? It would be interesting to know their numbers as well. Obviously, you probably don't have those, but if you could maybe find out, that would just be interesting to know. Any other questions? Go ahead, Amy.
I assume that the report will be attached to the minutes under the agenda. so that we can review it and the public can review it. But can you also include the capacity, the total number of students at each school and the capacity of those schools so that we can understand?
Yeah, Amy, right now I'm working on those numbers with capacity because we're looking at total FTEs compared to what our enrollment numbers are. We're going to have to make some adjustments, and so I just finished up this afternoon the elementary numbers. I don't have middle school and high school numbers yet, but our elementary numbers for our projections for next year are they're soft right now, but they're something that would at least give us information.
Okay, that would be great when you have them done, if you can include it in the report. Also, I would be interested to know how many, maybe it's getting down to personal, but which schools have the majority of our special needs students? I don't know if you can tell us the population at each school of our special needs students, of our SPED students.
I'll let Dr. Hafer answer that question for you.
That's something I'd have to look into. If you're talking about district-wide classrooms, we try to disperse those throughout the district so they can be closer to their home schools. But other than that, we try to keep pretty much an even number. Yeah, we do move our special education staff members around depending on how many students we have at a particular school.
The reason why I was asking the question is I know when we were doing the bond, we talked about Robbinsdale and how even though it may show capacity, it's very difficult to measure capacity with the special ed students and all of the extra room and space requirements that they have. So I just wondered which schools were struggling as Robbinsdale is with that issue.
I think I would just piggyback on what you said is the numbers, having known the numbers, the total capacity numbers in those other schools may help you in your decisions with options that you're coming up with for Canyon Lake and what happens there. Go ahead, Dr. Simon. Looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, I would just add that, yes, that's part of what we're taking the time to do, because there's been quite a number of additional district-wide special education programs added to several of our schools, so that really impacts and lowers capacity that was previously reported in the MGT Study of America.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from board members? All right, we look forward to that link, and we are moving on to Dr. Simon's report.
Thank you, President Thomas. Just a brief report tonight. The Thursday prior to Thanksgiving break, I gave a presentation to the noon Rotary Club on several district updates. Later that afternoon, I attended the Rapid City Public School Foundation meeting where we had a good discussion about some potential scholarships for our student representatives to the Board of Education. That evening, I attended a terrific performance of the play Our Town at Central High School. And then the next night, my husband and I attended the Raider Rarities. I have to say that attending these events at Central and Stevens was really a great way to close out American Education Week. Last Wednesday, we held our first Financial Advisory Council meeting where we provided an overview of our current financial condition and important decisions ahead this school year. Last Thursday, I attended the large school group meeting where we discussed anticipated bills for the upcoming legislative session. Finally, this afternoon, I listened to Governor Noem's budget address, in which she recommended a 6% increase to education to the legislature for staff and teacher salaries. With the winter break just around the corner, I want to close by wishing our students, staff, families, and school board a very Merry Christmas and joyous holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are going now into executive session for SDCL 1-25-2.1, and there will be no other further discussion or action afterwards. Thank you for everybody for coming. If we don't see you before the new year, Merry Christmas.
Need a motion.
Sorry, motion and a second.
Motion.
Amy and Gabe. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you.
No, it's just for the board.